Hey guys, this is Analog Man here for the inaugural episode of the All Delete podcast. This is essentially a way for me to discuss about the card game that isn't in the deck profiles that I normally post, and also another way to talk about the Vpet aspect of Digimon because aside from the card game, I am actually very heavily into the Vpets. I have basically all the modern devices at this point, along with a lot of the old devices. So I wanted a place to talk about basically everything Digimon rather than just focusing on the card game as well. Especially because the card game is only one aspect of Digimon, and I have essentially explored almost every aspect of it. So I wanted to kind of have a way to talk about it as well with you guys. So this is the best way I could have thought of because podcasts are usually a pretty decent way to do all that. So yeah. So first off, the first topic that I wanted to talk about specifically is actually with the card game with the current meta that is BT9. Um, for most of you, I'm assuming from just seeing the regionals and the locals and everything just in general, it has been a very OTK heavy format for anybody that has been following my channel for the longest time. Um, the fact is that I'm a primarily a security control player, yellow hybrid, all of that, machine Dramon, anything that can be considered security control or just something that is control based. That is my main focus. That is what I specialize in. So having to kind of adapt to this format has been essentially a challenge, I would say, honestly, because with how the new decks, especially the X antibody decks, I love X antibody. I love the concept of it, of the fact that Digimon adapting to their environment and then having to incorporate this X antibody, in the lore, I mean specifically with Digimon. I love that they actually finally added it into the card game. So I was really hyped to see it, but at the same time, I was incredibly worried when I first saw it because with how I saw things panning out in the OCG, I saw that the format essentially shifted completely just to like three, maybe four decks in total. For anybody that doesn't know, in the OCG, the format was essentially dominated by Alphamon, Metal Garurumon, Wargrey X, and Beelstar as a counter to all those. And it was just a very kind of like, from what I saw, it was very one note of a format, and I feel that people actually didn't really like the format as much. I'm not 100% sure on it. It's just what I've heard about the BT9 meta in the OCG. It was good for the people that played those decks, but for the ones that didn't want to just play meta, it was a really tough time for them. So I feel like that's semi the case right now. I've noticed that a lot of people have been kind of like, like with BT4, people took a break because of the Lord Nightmon format, which was insanely busted and overpowered. Security Control was actually the deck to beat that back then, but now it's kind of fallen to the wayside, and it's not going to be powerful enough to even attempt to counter the current meta decks until BT10, because that's when the whole format shifts over again. Just like with every format, there's always the old decks that are still around. Like blue hybrid was still around, yellow hybrid was around, red hybrid was still around, and those decks are still viable except for blue and yellow because they now have lost Tommy. Also, the fact that X antibody option card prevents you from trashing the bottom card, so it actually hurts them. Then there's the fact that yellow got hit. Jet Sylphie, pour one out for our waifu Jet Sylphie. Um, she she was too powerful. Honestly, even playing her, I felt really gross most of the time playing it because it was just the fact that you could just heal for one and then evolve into like an Ophanimon or a Seraphimon or something. It was just honestly really busted, and I mean I can see why they hit it. Same with Tommy, stripping three sources is just way too powerful and way too good. So I totally understand why they had to do it. It's understandable and it's whatever. It happens. Along with that, it's like it didn't really shift the meta too much because by the time they put out this list, we were already in BT9, so it didn't really even matter. With that hit, Metal Garuru, Grandis, Gaiomon, actually one of my all-time favorite decks. Actually, I'm actually enjoying it a lot. Um, they managed to come back up to the top. Like recent, for anybody that saw the tops from the recent Grand, from the Carta Magica regional, Grandis got, I think, the top 5 spots. And along with that, there were a bunch in the lower tiers and everything in like top 20s, and then everybody else was just there. But the fact that Grandis managed to make a huge comeback recently is insane. Along with that, with the ban, we've been seeing actually a lot of Gaiomon decks instead of War Greymon X. And I know that for a fact. Shout out to my friend Steven. Last night, he actually, the last 2 locals we've been playing this week, actually recently as of this recording, he's managed to win with Wargrey X both times. But the problem is that the deck, I feel, has some inconsistency issues, especially when played against its counterpart, Gaiomon. Gaiomon has a lot more going for it because of the power of the de-digivolving aspect, the ability to kill unsuspended Digimon, the fact that it can reboot, and the fact that it has an extra security by default, so you don't have to rely too much on your sources boosting you up, which made the deck really powerful. And the fact that you can boost him up to a 16,000 blocker too is really dumb, because you can evolve the Greymon X on top of the Black Greymon, and that essentially gives you a 16,000 blocker. And honestly, I feel that's just really more powerful than War Greymon X sometimes, because War Greymon X, it's like it's the most basic form of it is that it's just an OTK deck, and once it swings in, if you don't swing in and wipe their entire security and kill them that turn, and you have to kind of leave it out there, it's not great. Yes, it has protection from deletion and bouncing, but it doesn't have the protection from battle like Metal Garurumon, so it can't survive that next turn, which is really bad for the deck, because some decks, like say Gaiomon, Reaper, just a bunch of decks can just get around that, and it's not really that great when it happens. So I feel that's why we're not really seeing Wargreymon X topping as much here in the TCG. It's because Gaiomon essentially has a much higher ceiling with it, especially because every build runs basically all the red cards instead of the black cards. So it's not a primarily black-based version. In the OCG, they mainly ran the black variant that ran like 4 Makis, the Tapirmons, the composite Digimon like Deltamon and Megadramon. So it was different there. But here it's like everybody has essentially switched over from playing that version of Gaiomon to just the straight up red OTK version of it, which is vastly superior to the normal black version. So the problem is that now Wargreymon X essentially doesn't exist at regionals. There are people that are going to play it, but the problem is that most will go for the Gaiomon because it just has so much more power. Along with that, a lot of the rogue decks that have been around, like I actually have a friend, shout out to my friend Pablo, actually. He plays Jellymon. Jellymon is actually really busted. I've seen him play it, and it's really fast, and in conjunction with like Leomons and Ulforce, the deck just pops off. It checks hella security. It can make itself have jamming. It can have security +1s, all because of the old plugins from EX2. And then you just add an Ulforce to just kind of help finish the game. And the fact that you have Leomon for blockers too. The only problem with that deck is that it loses to DP reduction, which Mastamon does, and the deck is still around, which is the problem. Mastamon still being in the meta does hurt Jellymon's potential. There's also the fact that we also have Def X. Almost everybody I know who isn't running like the main 3 decks runs a Def X to just kind of clear the board, especially because there are still Imperial players kind of roaming around at the moment. So having Def X hurts their deck incredibly, to the point where they can, I've been able to basically cripple Imperial players consistently whenever they just go, oh, I'm just going to swarm the board. I'm like, okay, Def X, you already have 2 Tamers and you have like 5 Digimon. Okay, sorry, this thing costs like nothing, and I just wiped your whole board. So it's really rough having Def X. The weirder thing also is that Commandramon, one of my all-time favorite decks from BT4, has actually been consistently topping at almost every single regional, which proves that the deck can somehow survive for like, what, 5 formats or more, and it's getting new support too, and it's coming back in EX3 and BT11. So it's insane how that deck has lasted long enough. But it's a very basic deck. It's Commandramon, it's just a rookie rush deck, and then you just go Dartdramon for a game. And then with the new support like Congo, Pride Memory Boost, the Kazus from EX2, man, the deck just goes off. Like I have the deck, and it's really fun playing it. Just don't overload it with level sevens. That's a shout out to my friend Yogi. I watched him literally brick into like four level sevens, or like literally his entire hand was just no rookies. It was just everything else. So you have to be very careful with how you build the deck. You have to be very balanced with the ratios, or the deck just kind of dies basically. Um, Along with that, it's just yeah, like right now, as of recording, this is like early September. Um, the format hasn't really changed. It's basically been the same for the last like month and a half. So it's just honestly, I feel like personally, the format is kind of stale for me already. I mean, I love Metal Guru X. I love going into Omni with it, and I love playing Gaiamon. But it's just I literally can't win if I don't play those two decks or Grandis. Yeah, either one of those four decks. If I don't play them, I basically just kind of struggle for a bit and then I lose. It's just how the format is right now. It's not great. I feel that once BT10 comes out, when we get Digicrossing, the format's going to actually become a little bit more diverse, because then you're going to have the Crossheart, Blue Flare, and Dark Knight Mine X, Team Twilight, as most know from Cross Wars. Um, the thing is though is that I've been hearing a lot of things about BT10, or just how gross Crossheart is. And honestly, I don't believe the hype, because it's like the same thing with Alphamon. We thought Alphamon was going to be like the top tier deck. It was going to be busted as hell, right? But then it's like when you get to Alphamon and then you play it, like I have the whole deck. I actually pulled two Alt Art Oryukens for that deck, and the deck just feels so underwhelming. Like, yeah, it's amazing when it goes off and you check for six, and then you go grumble for a game. But the problem is every other time, like 90% of the time, you're dealing with bricks. You have to search a ton. Guilemon outspeeds you. Metal Garura outspeeds you. Reaper outspeeds you. It's just not great. Alphamon looks fast on paper. It is not in practice, especially in best of three formats. I feel like that's mainly the reason why Alphamon was just dominating so hard in OCG, is because a lot of their formats, a lot of their locals are best of ones. So Alphamon, I feel, shines better in that kind of format compared to the TCG, because in TCG best of three, there's always a chance that you can brick, and that potentially can lose you the game. So that's actually why I haven't honestly even touched my Alphamon deck that much, because it's just so inconsistent sometimes. Like I've never been able to go into or you can without some struggle. So it's just not great. But in that case with Crossheart, I feel that because of the over reliance on tamers, the fact with that is that you have to run, I think, at least 15 tamers. So most of the time you're just drawing tamers and your whole hand is full of tamers. So you're just nonstop playing those. So the problem is that during that time when you're just playing those down and searching, your opponent is going to be outspeeding you, especially Blue Flare and Dark Knight. Those two decks do not rely on tamers as much, especially Dark Knight. It does not need tamers. It honestly, it has an alternative way to even get to Dark Knight Mon X because of the previous support from BT 8, where you can just evolve in Raising, and you don't have to even Digicross. Blue Flare just hard goes into the Digicrossing aspect, and it's really powerful, very strong. I've seen basically them check security within like what turn two by just playing a three cost Metal Greymon and rushing in, and then when it dies, it just goes under their tamer anyway, so it doesn't matter. So it's just really powerful. I feel that Blue Flare and Dark Knight might be the top two decks, because Dark Knight Mine X, for anybody who hasn't been following my channel, the deck has as much search power as Alphamon, but the one difference is that it has a way to remain on the board consistently. Alphamon, if it dies to a security option card like Chaos Degrade, Gaia Force, or Cocytus, you basically are screwed at that point because if you don't have a stack already in raising ready to go next turn, you lose. And that's awful. While Dark Knightmon X, you kill it, and then it just says, I'm just going to revert back to my normal non-X form by summoning it back from the trash, and almost every single Dark Knightmon card on play basically gets to recover stuff from the trash or grab stuff from your hand or field to equip onto it. So no matter what you're recovering, you have a guy on board to basically swing for 2 checks and or Digivolve and pop a 5 cost. So I feel like Blue Flare, Dark Knight, and then it'll be Cross Heart, and then after that it'll be like Minervamon loop and like security control mainly. So, but that's just my personal opinion. I believe that security control is going to become really powerful then. Same with Minervamon loop. For anybody that doesn't know how that combo works, it's insane. Basically, what happens is that whenever Minervamon dies, it revives a level 5, but you can kill it with an option card. It's a 4 cost option, purple option card. I don't remember the name, but it has like a picture of like a coffin on it. But basically, when you delete something with it, you get to summon a level 5 back from the grave. So in conjunction with Minervamon, you can summon back both Cerebusmon and Cerebusmon Werewolf mode. So Werewolf mode, how the effect works is that on play, it deletes the Cerebusmon to gain back 9 memory. And if you're playing them both at the same time, Werewolf mode will have to resolve its effect, popping Cerebus and pushing you back 9 memory. So you can just keep continuously evolving into a Minervamon, popping it, and then summoning back the combo over and over and over and over, basically. And you just keep hitting and hitting until they run out of security, basically. And you can just keep looping. I've seen people loop it 4 times because that's the maximum amount you can play the option card. Basically, all of those players wait until they have all the pieces and they just loop for 4 times. With security control, it's a little bit different, where with BT10, we are getting new yellow cards that actually kind of break things. We have A, Venusmon, and B, Sakuyamon Miko mode, I believe. Yeah. And then the new option card. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a yellow option card. It's an 8 cost. It's like it's really broken. Essentially what it does is that when you have 3 or more security, it is a Wyvern's Breath, but it's only doing minus 12,000. And then when you have 3 or less, it becomes a Chaos Degrade. So almost every deck I know is going to be running that in their build. Then you have Sakuyamon Miko mode, where when you evolve, you can just grab back any, was it? It's like a 4 cost or lower or something. Or no, my bad. A 5 cost or lower option card because it can grab Sunrise Buster. You basically use it, then you put it back into security. So you basically get to, let's say, heal and then heal again, and then heal again, basically. So you're getting 2 heals out of that. Then we have Venusmon, which is honestly busted. When digivolving, it basically makes it so that anytime your opponent pushes out anything during their turn, it will automatically get a -1 security, which is really busted because that way they can't check you, especially with the new purple red Imperial Dramon that's coming out. That hard stops the deck because if it can't get the extra checks, it basically dies. Um, yeah, but that's just how it's gonna pan out with the format. It's gonna shift super hard, I think, to the Digicrossing and security control and loop decks from the new set because that's just how Digimon is at the moment. It's really weird how it works. It's just it's just how like the power creep goes. Like even in Yu-Gi-Oh, or Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic and other card games. Once the new set comes out, there's always going to be new busted cards that break the game in some capacity. So it's just a matter at this point of adapting and trying to figure out how you want to play in that format. And yeah, it's just that's basically how it's going to go down. Aside from all that crazy stuff that's going on in the card game, the Vpets, yeah, the Vpet or the Vpet aspect of Digimon has been kind of weird, honestly. It's been mainly focused. I've noticed the last few months, they've mainly been just focusing on the Vital Bracelet. I'm not gonna knock the Vital Bracelet, but I'm genuinely not a fan of it because, the screen is a little bit too small for me. There aren't really any custom backgrounds aside from the same dim card that you use, which kind of sucks, honestly. I wish it had more custom backgrounds or the fact that you could use backgrounds with other Digimon that are not related to the dim. Like maybe you plug it in and it just saves it to memory. It'd be really cool. but I mean, the Vital Bracelet, I know that there are fans for it. I understand the appeal of it, but just for me, I'm more of a fan of the old school kind of like monochrome, like 8-bit kind of Vpets. So I usually go for that, which is why I was so hyped when they recently just announced the new Digimon Colors, which are for anybody that hasn't seen it, it is going to be one of the first like uh, actual like VPET devices that is going to be in color, which is really insane because most of the time with the current VPETs that we have now, they're all monochrome like 8-bit, just like the old style from the 90s. So the fact that we're getting that as a color LCD screen and it has USB-C charging and it can connect and unlock different backgrounds from the other devices, which is really cool. And we're getting an updated roster and sprites. The sprites actually look insanely amazing if you've seen any of the pictures. Um, I don't know. It just looks really exciting. I already pre-ordered all four of them. I pre-ordered two of each color, so I'm already super hyped in. Aside from that, I feel like the weird thing is that modern VPETs are kind of having a weird thing. So with the recent release of the X2 is finally releasing. Thank God. For anybody that's been following that whole thing with the X2, it's been insane. The fact that they messed up the rosters on the initial release, where the purple and the red rosters were switched. So if you were buying like purple for like for me, I like the purple version because it has Dark Knight on X. It wouldn't have it. It would have the Black War Greymon and the other stuff. While if you wanted the, like for me, I wanted Dark Knight Mine X, I would have had to buy the red colored, the red translucent shell, which is kind of bad. I mean, I can understand the outrage of it, but like I feel like everybody was honestly freaking out a bit. Like it's cool that we got errored versions, like they're basically like flawed versions, which is cool. In the future, they might be worth a bit of money, maybe, but at the same time, it's like it happens. I go by the idea of things happen. Sometimes not everything goes according to plan, but the initial backlash to it was really weird. I don't really understand the idea behind it because it's just a roster change. Just buy the other one. And for anybody that doesn't know, the modern VPETs, especially the English versions, are super, super easy to modify. Especially because the speaker for the Japanese ones are always mounted to the shell, the back shell. So when you open it, you have to be super careful not to snap the speaker wire or you just break it. But with the English versions or just the versions that are outside of Japan or Asia, um, the speaker is mounted onto the motherboard, so it makes it super easy to disassemble, take out the motherboard, and switch it out with stuff. I've actually with my original Digimon Digital Monster 20th anniversary one, my very first one, I did a lot of progress on that, and I wanted to switch shells, switch colors. So I would take the motherboard and put it into other devices. Yeah, sorry about that. That was my phone in the background. But yeah, basically with the modern devices, it's super easy to just modify and like this kind of error, I feel like it wasn't that honestly a big of a deal because you could have just switched it. So I just didn't really understand the backlash. Like a lot of people actually, I wasn't the only one that pointed that out, honestly. A lot of people said, hey, just switch the thing because it's just a screwdriver. You just need a screwdriver, unscrew some stuff, and you're good. Easy. But I don't know, maybe not everybody is as tech savvy. I'm not trying to say anything bad about them. It's just some of us know how to do it and some of us don't, and I can understand it, but at the same time, it's like you don't have to like file a formal complaint against Bondi. I mean, stuff like this happens occasionally. I mean, from what I've heard, stuff like this has happened with their Tamagotchis a lot, so it's not really the first time. So I think at this point, you should just kind of expect the worst, no matter what. That's how I go into a lot of situations, so it was fine. But I feel like because of the backlash, we are the release for the third version, version 3 of the Digimon X will be delayed at least probably till next year, maybe February, maybe March. We still don't even have a definite date on it, which really sucks. It's honestly why I've actually had to import almost I imported both the versions of the X2 and the X3 already because of that issue. And Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's like we've been waiting for so long. I think, let's see, I think the Digimon X came on like 2018, 2018 or 2019, I believe. So it's been a while. Don't quote me on that. I just remember it was before 2020. So the fact that we've been waiting this long to get even just the version 2, I'm just expecting, like, the amount of time that you're waiting at this point does not equate the money you save because it's been 3 years. You could have just imported it. It would have been a one-time thing and you would have had hours of enjoyment from it already. I've already played the heck out of my X2s and X3s, so I already got my money's worth. I spent 80 on each. That's fine. I got a lot of use. It's fine. But just waiting 3 or 4 years in this case is just not. I mean, I'm not the most patient person in the world. I'm willing to wait for something, but 3 years is a bit much just to get one device. So it's just kind of weird how that's working out at the moment. I'm just honestly, I'm just glad we're even getting anniversary devices because the Color is a 25th anniversary device, but they've only shown version 1 and 2. So we don't know if there's going to be a version 3 or 4 or even a 5. I'm hoping that if it does good enough, like if people buy enough of it, they'll release version 3, 4, and 5 in like another wave. That'd be insanely nice of them. But we don't know because from what I remember in the promo, they said that if this does well, they might do more. I don't know. It'll just it'll just be kind of weird about that. Um, but yeah, that's just been what's been going on in the VPET um, part of Digimon. With the anime part of it, oof. Honestly, I don't know what's been going down with that. I've been seeing some scans, magazine scans of the new Digimon Adventure '02 movie that's coming out. So far, it's just scans and speculations, so nothing is concrete. So I'm not gonna really say too much on that because we don't have anything confirmed. With other stuff like Ghost Game. I genuinely do not know what they're doing with that show. Um, I watched the first 5 episodes. It was a decent binge. It was not too bad. It was entertaining. Um, then I don't know. It's like as it progressed, it just started giving me flashbacks to the Digimon 2020 anime. Um, in this case, it's the complete opposite, where in the 2020 anime, I watched it all the way through, including the finale, and yes, there were some dips in animation because of COVID related things, which really sucked, but it's fine. I can look past that because that we all had to deal with that in some capacity, the restrictions and all that, so whatever. But here, everything's kind of semi back to normal. Not fully, but it's at least it's business as usual, especially for animation studios, from what I've been hearing in Japan. It's the same stuff. Um, Ghost Game, originally, from the first few episodes, I thought that it had a plot line, like a central plot, maybe a villain that might show up, that might pop in and be like, oh, hey guys, I'm doing this. But so far, I don't know. It's it doesn't have a concrete story. It has very good like weekly like monster of the week episodes, and I'm used to that kind of stuff because I watch Tokusatsu, I watch Super Sentai, I watch Ultraman, I watch Kamen Rider, I watch all of that, and I'm used to the monster of the week. But you have to at least sprinkle in some manner of a story. I'm not fully caught up anymore. I think I'm up to like episode like 20 something, I believe. So I've watched a decent chunk of it, and the problem is that in all those episodes, I feel like like half of them I think I fell asleep, which is bad if you think about it in a sense. You don't want to fall asleep during an episode. At least with the 2020 anime, whenever they went into a battle, oh, they threw all their money into the battles, like all their money. You like when you see Agumon warp evolve into War Greymon in the 2020, it's a feat to be seen. It is some of the best animation I've seen in Digimon. It is insane. Like just the effort that must have gone into that. Like my all-time favorite evolution in the Digimon anime has to be the one. It's it's either the newest evolution of Omegamon or Crescaruru, because Crescaruru's one is literally him flying into the sky and equipping golden armor, and then Omegamon is literally just him like doing like a pose and blowing a hole in a wall at the same time while posing. So I'm like, okay, that's really cool. That is a sick and the fights are at least decent. But Ghost Game, it's like the fights are okay. They're decent, but they're not like, oh my god, this is like the coolest thing ever. And the evolutions for Ghost Game, I mean, they look interesting, but they don't have the same impact as like some of the older ones. Like design wise, probably the best one out of the three Digidestined in this series would probably be it would probably be Gamamon. Gamamon is really cute, but then he has like a dark form and he can evolve into like this really cool like dragon later on, and it looks really cool. But Jellymon and the other one, I don't even know the name of the other one. I don't even pay attention anymore to him. Um, they're okay. The design, it's decent, but the problem is that they don't stand out enough. Like they look good, but not like, oh, that looks like cool kind of thing. For me, it's like even with like the original Digidestin, they had really cool designs. For each one had a unique thing about them that made them cool. Like Metal Greymon, and then into War Greymon, then Metal Garuru, that was cool. And then you had like the two angels, that was cool. Then you had Lilymon, and then you had like the water type of Ikakumon. Um, who else? Who else? And then you had Sora. She was the flying type, the fire type. That was cool. Everybody had their own thing about their set of skills. But here it's like everybody can do almost the exact same thing. So there's like not really much of a distinction between them either. So they just kind of blend in with each other. And not only that, it's like the character development is also kind of weird and kind of all over the place. Like freaking Kiyoshiro, whatever his name is. Like from the images I remember seeing of him of initially, I thought he was gonna be kind of like the cool guy, like the Matt of the group, right? But then he turns out to be like the Joe of the group, and I'm like, what? Why is he the Joe of the group? I mean, if you want to do Joe, just add in a Joe. Like you need a guy that's gonna be Matt. So now you have like the Tai, the Joe, and then you have like the Mimi. So it's like you're missing other aspects of characters you could essentially like I don't even understand why we only do three characters. We could have done like a team of 4 or 5. A team of 5 would be perfect. That would be Sentai level. That would have been like, okay, you have enough, it's fine. But then at the same time, character development might suffer a bit because of that. But at the same time, they only have 3 characters and they barely have any development, then they don't have any character half the time. So it's like, what's the point? It doesn't make any sense. So it's like either they were trying to go for more character development with less characters and then failed, and then their original idea was to do more characters, and then they're like, oh, we can't do more character development, so we have to focus on something else. And it's so weird how the anime has panned out so far. At this point, I feel like I drop into it occasionally to see what's going on, but then aside from that, I don't know much else about it, and it's kind of lame because I was hoping Ghost Game would be really cool because the music was actually pretty decent. Some of the cool cameos of some Digimon we've never seen in the anime show up, so it's really cool. Like we finally got to see EX Tyrannomon in there. We got to see the anime debut of Zubamon. And yeah, he looks good, but then at certain angles he looks horrifying. So I don't know if I really wanted that at the same time. So I don't know. So, but yeah, that's all I have honestly on Digimon at the moment. But yeah, thanks for listening. Drop a like. Let me know what you thought of the podcast. Honestly, because I kind of want to do more episodes of this. This is my first time trying it, so I just wanted to see how it would work, how it would, be received by everybody, all my fans and all that stuff. Um, might get, some of my friends in on this podcast too, depending on how this does. But yeah, thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.